In the face of stubborn communal borders and cultural differences, only a visionary can break walls and inspire oneness. He has been an iconic ambassador of the Indian culture and teachings. He represented India gloriously on the world stage and worked hard for the betterment of the Indian people. He is Swami Vivekananda. Narendranath Dutt, later known as Swami Vivekananda, was born on 12th January 1863 into a Bengali family in present-day Kolkata. His father, Vishwanath Datta, was an attorney at the Calcutta High Court, while his mother, Bhuvneshwari Devi, was a devout housewife. The progressive, rational attitude of his father and the religious temperament of his mother helped shape his thinking and personality. Narendranath Dutt was interested in spirituality from a very young age and used to meditate to the images of deities such as Shiva, Ram, Sita, and Hanuman. Also, very naughty and restless as a child, he was fascinated by the wandering ascetics and monks. He was an avid reader in a wide range of subjects, including philosophy, religion, history, social science, art, literature. He was also interested in Hindu scriptures like the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Puranas. Formally, he studied Western logic, Western philosophy, and European history at the General Assembly's institution, now known as the Scottish Church College. In 1881, he passed the Fine Arts examination and completed a Bachelor of Arts degree. Overall, he was blessed with a prodigious memory and hence was called a Shrutidhar. By the way, beyond his expansive studies, Narendra was also trained in Indian classical music. Along with that, he also regularly participated in physical exercises and sports and organized many activities. In 1880, Narendra had joined Keshav Chandra Sen's Navavidhan and later the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. Now, I don't have to go deep into these because I hope you would have gone through the lectures on Keshav Chandra Sen. His initial beliefs were shaped by the Brahmo concepts, which included belief in a formless God, monotheistic theology, and the deprecation of idolatry. He asked several prominent Calcutta residents if they had come face to face with God, but none of their answers satisfied this great man. And ultimately, it was Ramakrishna Paramhans who really answered the queries by saying, "Yes, I see him." By him, he refers to God. "Yes, I see him as I see you, only in an infinitely intense sense." Now, speaking of Ramakrishna Paramhans, Narendra first met him in 1881 while he was pursuing his bachelor's degree. He did not initially accept Ramakrishna as his teacher, for as a member of the Brahmo Samaj, Swami Vivekananda opposed idol worship, polytheism, whereas Ramakrishna's worship of Kali was there. He even rejected the Advait Vedanta of identity with the absolute as blasphemy and madness, and often ridiculed this particular idea. However, after his father's death in 1884, he actually developed an interest in Ramakrishna's teachings and found solace by frequently visiting him at Dakshineshwar. At the same time, Narendra's father's unfortunate death also left the family bankrupt. Narendra unsuccessfully was trying to find work at this point of time. Now, let us also get and know about the Ramakrishna Math. After Ramakrishna's death in 1886, Swami Vivekananda decided to convert a dilapidated house at Baranagar into a new math or monastery for the disciples. This monastery was to spread Ramakrishna's teachings. Now, for this monastery, money was raised by holy begging, and the Ramakrishna Math was thus founded in 1887. The chief objective of the Math was to propagate the teachings of Ramakrishna Paramhans, that is, the universal message of the Vedanta. Later, in 1898, Swami Vivekananda had acquired a large piece of land at Belur, where the Ramakrishna Math was finally shifted. Swami Vivekananda spread Ramakrishna's message and tried to reconcile it to the needs of contemporary Indian society and emerged as a preacher of new Hinduism. Certain spiritual experiences of Ramakrishna, the teachings of the Upanishads and the Gita, and the examples of Bhagwan Buddha and Jesus are the basis of Vivekananda's message to the world about the human values. He subscribed to the Vedanta, which he considered a fully rational system with a superior approach. His mission was to bridge the gulf between Paramarth or service and Vyavahar or behavior, and between spirituality and day-to-day life. Swami Vivekananda believed in the fundamental oneness of God. And he had said, for our own motherland, a junction of the two great systems, Hinduism and Islam, is the only hope. Let's talk about his ideas about nationalism now. Nationalism was a prominent theme in Vivekananda's thoughts. He believed that a country's future depends on its people, and his teachings focused on the human development. He wanted to set in motion a machinery which would bring the noblest ideas to the doorstep of even the poorest and the meanest. At this moment, he started emphasizing on social action and declared that knowledge without action is useless. He also lamented the fact that there were isolationist tendencies and there was a touch-me-not attitude amongst the Hindus, particularly in religious matters. Beyond the caste system, he frowned in those days at religion's tacit approval of the oppression of the poor by the rich. He pointed out that the masses needed two kinds of knowledge: secular knowledge about how to work for their economic upliftment, but also the spiritual knowledge to have faith in themselves and strengthen their moral sense. He called upon his countrymen to imbibe a spirit of liberty, equality, and free thinking. But then, this great man's influence goes far beyond his countrymen. Let us look at his influence abroad. The Parliament of the World's Religions opened on 11 September 1893 at the Art Institute of Chicago. Here, Swami Vivekananda gave a brief speech representing India and Hinduism. He bowed to Goddess Saraswati, the Hindu goddess of learning, and began his speech with "Sisters and Brothers of America," for which he received a 2-minute standing ovation from the crowd of around 7,000 people. He spoke of Hinduism as a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. So you can see these are the ideas that he represented there. The keynote of this address, which was the opening address, was the need for having a healthy balance between spiritualism and materialism. Here, he envisaged a new culture for the whole world. He called for a blend of the materialism of the West and the spiritualism of the East into a new harmony to produce happiness for the mankind. He quoted 2 illustrative passages from the Shiva Mahima Strotam, and his speech was only a short speech, but it voiced the spirit of that particular parliament. Now, as you can understand, at this moment, Swami Vivekananda is in the West. And here, he started traveling across the eastern and central United States for 2 years, giving lectures primarily in Chicago, Detroit, Boston, and New York. For 2 months, beginning in June 1895, Vivekananda gave private lectures on Vedanta and yoga to a dozen of his disciples at Thousand Island Park, New York. In November 1895, he met Margaret Noble. She was an Irish woman who would later become Sister Nivedita. During his second visit to the UK in May 1896, Vivekananda met Max Muller, who wrote Ramakrishna's first biography in the West. In Germany, he met Paul Deussen, another Indologist. Vivekananda was offered academic positions in 2 American universities, Harvard and Columbia. He declined both, since his duties would conflict with his commitment as a monk. Now, here only in New York, in 1894, he founded the Vedanta Society. You can see here. Vivekananda adapted traditional Hindu ideas and religiosity to suit the needs and understandings of his Western audiences, who were attracted by Western esoteric traditions and movements like Transcendentalism and New Thought. He introduced his 4 yogas model, which includes Raj Yoga, his interpretation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which offered a practical means to realize the divine force. In 1896, his book Raj Yoga was published, becoming an instant success. You would be proud to know that as a result of his great influence and work, Vivekananda attracted many followers and admirers in the West and Europe, including influential personalities such as William James, Lord Kelvin, and many more. We Indians could not have asked for a better ambassador of our culture and knowledge, and his efforts did not stop there. In 1895, Vivekananda founded the periodical Brahmavadin to teach the Vedanta. The Vedanta Society is still filled with foreign nationals and is also located in Los Angeles. Now, when he is there in America during his stay over there, he was given land in the mountains near California to establish a home for Vedanta students. And he called it the Peace Retreat or the Shanti Ashram. Now, what does he do after coming back from the West? Let's look his influence in India. Upon his return from the West, Swami Vivekananda in 1897 established the Ramakrishna Mission. At which place? Belur. This was a social service and charitable society founded almost 11 years after the death of his Guru. The goal of this society, as you can see, is humanitarian relief and social work. Now, how do they do this? They do it by establishment of schools, colleges, hospitals, etc. The members of the Math are the principal workers of the mission, and the trustees of the Math are the governing body of the mission. Both the Ramakrishna Math and the Ramakrishna Mission have their headquarters at Belur Math since 1898. The mission, as I told you earlier also, has been running a number of schools, hospitals, dispensaries, and through them it offers help to the people affected in times of natural calamities like earthquakes, famines, floods, and epidemics. In fact, the mission has developed into a worldwide organization. Though a deeply religious body, it is not a proselytizing one. It does not consider itself to be a sect of Hinduism. The mission recognizes the utility and value of image worship in developing the spiritual fervor and worship of the eternal omnipotent God, although it emphasizes on the essential spirit and not on symbols or rituals. It believes that the philosophy of the Vedanta will make a Christian a better Christian and a Hindu a better Hindu. The monastic order is open to all men without discrimination. Unfortunately, this great man Swami Vivekananda died on 4th July 1902 at around 9:20 in the evening while meditating at an early age of 39. The rupture of a blood vessel in his brain was the possible cause for his death. He is believed to have attained Mahasamadhi by his disciples. His nationalistic ideas influenced many Indian thinkers and leaders. Sri Aurobindo Ghosh regarded Vivekananda as the one who awakened Indian spirituality. Mahatma Gandhi counted him among the few Hindu reformers who have maintained this Hindu religion in a state of splendor by cutting down the dead wood of tradition. Babasaheb Bhimrao Ambedkar, the great Indian polymath and the father of our constitution, said that the Buddha was the greatest person India had ever produced. The greatest man India produced in recent centuries was Vivekananda. The first Governor General of independent India, Chakravarti Rajgopalachari, said, Vivekananda saved Hinduism, saved India. According to Subhash Chandra Bose, Vivekananda was the maker of modern India. Lastly, Rabindranath Tagore once said, if you want to know India, study Vivekananda. His writings inspired independent activists such as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Aurobindo Ghosh, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bagha Jatin, as well as intellectuals like Aldous Huxley, Christopher Isherwood, and Romain Rolland. Along with all these men, Jamshedji Tata was inspired by Vivekananda to establish the Indian Institute of Science. This is one of India's best-known research universities. Today, his birthday is celebrated as National Youth Day in India. 12th January, every year we are celebrating as National Youth Day. The day he delivered his masterful speech at the Parliament of Religions, 11th September 1893, is best known as World Brotherhood Day. His teachings and values also continue to inspire global institutions and national governments across the world. To conclude, I would hope you have been inspired by this legendary thinker. I deeply hope that you will practice freedom of thought and rationality, and that you will develop your spirituality while staying away from religious disunity and narrow-mindedness. It is only then, dear student, that Swami Vivekananda would have achieved his true goal, giving you a superior life. Jai Hind. For more videos, subscribe to BYJU'S Learning app.